got another Redtail tutorial for you, part of our Getting Started with Redtail series. This one focuses on your calendar and adding activities. Now, inside of Redtail, there are literally dozens of different places where you can add activities to your calendar. We're on today's overview right now, and one of the first things that we see at the top of the page is our pending activities. If we want to add an activity, we can actually go ahead and click Add Activity right there. And that's going to bring up our activity window for us to add. Let me show you a couple other places where you can add them. First, let's go ahead and let's pull up any contact. Let's see here. We'll pull up Bob again since we've been using him lately. Now, we can do this a number of different ways. We can actually click on his open activities, and that's going to take us to his activities. Any activities for Bob, we can then go ahead and, as you see over on the right-hand side, add an activity for Bob. Now, this is going to add directly to Bob's record. When we are back on our today's overview page, that's going to be just an open activity that we would then have to add contacts to. All right, so those are a couple of places where you can add them. Let me show you a couple more. By clicking on the calendar, that's obviously going to take us to our calendar. All right, now because we are in a trial and we're just getting started, we don't got a lot on our calendar right now, and that's okay. Nothing to get scared of. One quick way to add activities is by double-clicking in any time slot that we want to see. Now, right now, our calendar is divided by 15-minute time slots. That's why we have 4, basically, sections in each hour. So if I wanted to add an activity for, let's say, Wednesday at 9 a.m., I can double-click on that, and that brings up sort of a quick add window where I just give it a subject, I give it a start time, I give it an end time, and then I can either create it or I can click edit. And again, by clicking edit, what that's going to do is that's going to take us back into our full activity page where we can fill out pretty much anything we want about it. Yet that's another way. I think that's 4 different ways so far. We've shown you where you can add activities. I'm going to show you my last one. We're going to do the last one together here because it is my favorite. We've done this a couple times already. We've gone up to the quick add icon. We've clicked on that plus sign, and now again, we can add anything we want from any page. We detailed the quick add icon in one of the previous tutorials. Pretty much, we can add anything no matter where we are, when we are, why we are, we can add it right here. So obviously, the theme of this tutorial is adding activities. Let's go ahead and let's add one. Now we're going to go in and we're going to fill this out one by one here. I'm not going to spend too much time on all the little nitty-gritty details here, but let's say we want to call, Mary. Say call Mary. We want to give her a call. Now we can call her. We can put this as an all-day event, or we can uncheck this box. An all-day event is basically a task. It's something that you have to get done at some point during the day. There's just no specific time that you have to do it. So a phone call typically falls underneath that type of description. Now let's do one that actually has a meeting time. Let's say we want to meet with Bob. All right, and we're going to meet with him at 2 p.m. All right, approximately a 1-hour appointment. If we want to change this, we can. We can go and find the time. We can type in the time. If we want to change the start and end date, we can. We can go in there and find the start and end date. That's totally fine. We can give a location like the office. We can add in notes. Now, these are really sort of details, all right? So we can say Bob wants to talk, about retirement. That's pretty good. Now we can give it a type and a category. Now, if you watch some of the other tutorials, you paid attention, and hopefully you paid attention, and saw how we can change our database lists. If you haven't, go back and watch that. A couple of the lists we talked about were activity types and categories. So now we can actually go to one of our types, in this case an appointment, and then we can go ahead and categorize it. If we wanted to do a relationship building or customer service, we can go ahead and categorize that as well. Remember, type is more general, and then category sort of builds off of the type and makes it a little bit more specific. We also have importance, priority, and a percent of completion if this is a longer activity. All right, so, these aren't frequently used, but they are there, and they are searchable. They are things that we can go ahead and run reports on as well. And then we also have a repeating activity. Now, I'm just going to throw this out there. We're not obviously going to be repeating this meeting with Bob, but if I want to repeat this bad boy daily or weekly, let's say I want to repeat it yearly, then that's going to open up more opportunities for me. I can say it's going to repeat every year in January, and then I can even get more specific, and I could say it's going to repeat on the let's say second Monday. All right. So basically, what I'm saying here, and I know that this kind of looks long and might be a little bit intimidating. That's all right. Don't get scared. All right. Basically, what I'm saying is that I want this activity to repeat on the second Monday of every January. So every time January rolls around, this activity is going to be there on our second Monday. And we also want to make sure that we give it an end date. All right. So if it's something that repeats yearly, you can give it an end date of a few years from now. That's okay. So if we click on this and we click on our date again, that allows us to jump further into the future, into the past. If it's something that's monthly or weekly, then you want to give it a little bit shorter of an end date, something maybe 6 months down the road, maybe 1 year down the road. The reason is we don't want your calendar and we don't want open activities just filling up with all these repeating activities, because as you see here, I mean, the Redtail calendar goes to like, we can go into forever, 2160 it looks like. And we don't want our calendar activities going all the way to 2160. So make sure you give it an end date. That's something that's very important. But since we're not going to be repeating any of this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to go back to never. And that's going to go ahead and it's going to take everything out that we just did. Now, before I save this activity, I want to show you a couple other things that we can do over on the right-hand side. Number one, we can add multiple attendees. This is really cool, all right? Because sometimes we want this meeting maybe to be on other people's calendars in our office. We have other users. I want my assistant to be in on there. I want my partner to be in on there. And so we can actually go in and we can add attendees from our user list. So I can go ahead and find our other users. In this case, we only have the other one, Sally. We'll go ahead and add her. And now not only is this calendar activity going to show up on my calendar, but it's also going to show up on Sally's calendar as well. And then any changes that I make to it will reverberate back to Sally's calendar. We can go ahead and check these boxes here to make sure that those people are notified of those changes. Another thing we can do is we can add contacts. Obviously, this is going to be a meeting with Bob, so I'm going to go ahead and add a contact. Or we're going to type in Robert. Let's find him there. There we go. We'll add that contact, and we can add additional contacts. We can add as many contacts as we want, which is typically good for spouses. So we'll find Helen. We'll add her as well. Below that, we have linked notes. The nice thing about linked notes is that they're date and time stamped. This notes section up here that we talked about before with the details, that's really just an ongoing notepad. All right. When we keep our activity open, as long as it's open and it's not been completed, we can add more to this list. He also wants to talk about investing, whatever. And we can go ahead and add that and continue adding that until we complete our activity. With a linked note, that linked note is going to go in here and say, Bob is very concerned for his college, age son's tuition. Let's go that. Did I spell tuition right? I did. Yes, good job. We can categorize that just like any other note, and we can go ahead and add that note. And now that note is actually attached in there. We can look deeper into that note, but that note is something that's in there permanently. We can't edit it. We can't build off of it. That's something that differentiates linked notes between these notes up here, these more detailed notes. Let's go ahead and let's save this bad boy. We'll go ahead and click save here. And now that's going to put this calendar activity onto our calendar. All right. So let's go down. Let's go down to the 10th. There it is. Meet with Bob. We can go ahead and move this around if we want to reschedule it. We can just drag and drop. Really nice to be able to do that. And now we see it's back on Friday. All right. Now up at the top of the calendar, we can kind of tweak on and off certain things. We have another webinar that's going to be going over more site preferences and setting up the defaults of your calendar. But right here is where we can work a little bit, with those defaults that we've already set. We can navigate further in advance on our calendar, or we can navigate backwards. We can choose to toggle on and off other events that don't necessarily reside on our calendar. So things like client reviews that are generated from the Know Your Client section, or seminars that are taken from the seminar section, we can still see these on our calendar even though we never actually created a calendar activity for them. Of course, we can also change colors. And then last but certainly not least, there's yet another way that we can add an activity from this actions menu. Going over to users, we can actually choose who on our user list that we are going to see. So we can just check off the people that we want to see or don't want to see. We can click just me to make sure that I'm only seeing my activities. Likewise with types. Maybe I only want to see my appointments. I can go ahead and apply that filter. Maybe I only want to see my phone calls. Let's go ahead and apply that filter. We can go ahead and actually turn on and off things to make it a little bit easier to see what's going on in our calendar. And then the same thing with categories. You know, if I only want to focus on categories that have to do with policy support, we can go ahead and select that. And then anytime we want to get rid of that filter, we just go ahead and click on that X, and that's going to take it away. So that's pretty much it for the calendar. Again, nothing too, nothing too drastic. A calendar's a calendar. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. Make sure to go back and check out some of the other getting started tutorials that you may have missed, and keep going with them. We're not done with them yet. We still got a couple more. So again, thanks for watching. Thanks for taking a little bit of time out of your day to watch this. If you have any questions, make sure to always give us a call, 800-206-5030, option 2 for sales, option 3 for support. Thanks a lot. Have a great one.